Hey guys, StarCraft here, and happy May the 4th be with you all as we celebrate Star Wars Day. And, well, I've got 4 different Star Wars comics I want to talk about. But I'm going to do things differently for these spotlights. You see, a lot of these comics can be summed up pretty quickly. So, in this case, I'm doing less of a overview. I mean, I'm still going to talk about them, but I'm not going to go as detailed as I usually do. So instead, I'm more going to be going over and talk about key moments, characterizations, how these things, especially this one in particular, affect a lot of the Star Wars lore, for good or ill. As in this case, let's talk about Star Wars Dark Empire Trilogy by Tom Beach and Cam Kennedy, as well as who was the other artist? Hold on a second, it was Jim McKay. And well, there's an interesting behind the scenes about this. Originally, this was going to be done at Marvel, back when Marvel had lost the license, but then decided to renew it again under I just forgot the guy who. The editor, it was Archie Goodwin. Archie Goodwin was originally going to be the editor. And originally this was supposed to be set, right after Return of the Jedi, but that kind of fell through. And because by this point, Star Wars was actually working, you had the comics, but they also now, by this point, now to work alongside the novels. And around this point then, they were going to have, and Timothy Zahn was working on his novels. And he was personally asked, could you probably fit in a little bit of a reference to Dark Empire in your stuff? He refused. Why? He did not like the big twist that's in this. He hated it. And, well, I'll talk about the legacy of this afterwards, but let's just say a lot of stuff in here would both be would actually stick around in continuity, and others would be made dubious at best. But funny thing is, the biggest twist of all in here is something that people have been kind of calling that happened in the sequel trilogies since as far back as, well, Force Awakens. And let's not mince words as we get right into Dark Empire 1. Now, the thing about this is, like I said, is instead of being set immediately after, they decided to set it a year after the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn. And I will get to reviewing that throughout the day, but I want to start with this one because this one felt there's a lot of parallels with one of the upcoming movies. I'm sorry, with the upcoming episode 9. But the interesting thing is, though, when you read through this, it acts like there's no tie. In this first one, anyway, there's absolutely no ties whatsoever to the Thrawn trilogy. Because obviously they were in production right at the same time as that stuff was going on. So they ended up putting these, now I don't have them in this book, but I probably will have scans from the actual issues themselves where they basically fill in the gaps. And, well, it actually explains stuff between, leading up to all this. And during the year in between the end of the Thrawn trilogy and this point, Thrawn was able to revigor the Empire. But after his death, as opposed to actually crawling into a hole to die, instead, a lot of the heads of the Empire decided to galvanize and making a big push, and were able to kick the rebellion off of Coruscant and take it back over again. And but then, after that happened, it led to Civil War, which is where we start off. And again, you look at this, you can definitely see as this opens up how this could have happened right after Return of the Jedi. Because right after the Emperor's death, Civil War. But at least they were able to find a way around by saying after Thrawn's death, brief unification, but then civil war among the leaders afterwards. And it makes sense. And then we see Luke is on Coruscant. Well, first, the other thing also reveals that it turns out the rebellion had compensated a few Star Destroyers. We'll get to that when I do another video. But basically, they end up there in Coruscant, see a bunch of the Civil Wars. Leia makes a comment about saying this is only the second time she's ever used one of the cockpits. Interesting. And she takes out the AT-AT. Now by this point, Tom Beach is trying to reveal that Leia's more and more embracing the Force. Now, one thing that Timothy Zahn would do would give Leia her own lightsaber and start that as well, but Veach will be the one that really goes along with it. And then we see Luke show up, pretty badass and making it look a bit ominous, like you see he's Vader. And then an addict shows up and Luke takes it down, all on his own. Wow, that's Jedi, you made fun of that. But basically, yeah, we're basically seeing an uber-powered Luke. Tells Leia that he sensed something coming. All of a sudden, this storm happens up in space, and everyone gets away. But then R2 comes up to Luke and goes up. He's taken away. As we're then introduced to the new Death Star of this series, of this first miniseries, the World Devastator. This, I think, is one of the better things we'll be seeing throughout the series because it's not really the Death Star. Not quite, anyway. It's basically these ships that go through planet to planet and start gathering and consuming everything in its path and then converting into weapons. That's basically walking furnaces. That's not a bad idea, actually. And the stuff with the attacks on these world devastators on the planet of Mon Calamari, Admiral Akbar's planet, would have happen a bit later, and that actually happens in one of the Rogue Squadron game. Interesting, huh? And then we are, Luke's on the planet, but then he's brought in on the planet Bith, which is believed to be the home world of the Sith. As they're led through, and, well, here's the big twist. The Emperor is still alive. And he's actually been alive jumping into clone bodies. Interesting thing. This wasn't supposed to be the twist. Originally, Tom Veach wanted to be someone would dress up in Vader and try to rebuild the Empire that way. But this was actually George Lucas's idea. And given dialogue and stuff, we would find out in episode 3 about Darth Plagueis and how that's basically was also Palpatine in a lot of ways, or at least tied into Palpatine. Yeah. That's interesting. How the whole notion of he was trying to avoid from dying. Funny enough, that would pass on from master to apprentice, and that Palpatine wanted the same thing. And really, when you see about with the clones tying into the Clone Wars, a lot of the stuff in this makes more sense than when you think about it. And then, given what has been revealed in Episode 9 about the Emperor still somehow being at least partially alive, I find that so fascinating as well. But that basically explains how, and the backup stories also reveal that when Thrawn returned, the Emperor decided to let Thrawn try and fix things, and he almost did. But when he failed, and later interpretations will also reveal that Palpatine, he was preparing for some threat out there in the unknown regions, and when Thrawn came back, he saw he can get things straightened out. But then he started to making it getting a little too big. He would have brought the threat sooner. So Palpatine manipulated events to lead to Thrawn's death. And it broke his heart. For what heart Palpatine has, because he wanted to have Thrawn at his side, but Thrawn was getting too big, so he basically manipulated things. But then afterwards, he decided, I will come back in charge. But he has other reasons we'll get to. But having the Emperor back, I don't know. It kind of feels a bit. If this had happened right after Return of the Jedi, it might have been more interesting, but again, just some of the stuff is just... if some people say it makes Vader's sacrifice pointless, and to a degree it does, but at the same time, not entirely, because still he saved Luke's life, and he took out the Emperor for a good length of time. And come on, with how power-mad Palpatine is, it just makes sense that he would want immortality, and Luke decides to take up on the dark side. He wants to know why his father turned. And then we see... Lando takes their first was destroyed on Coruscant, and he takes the other one to attack some of the World Devastators, as we're then introduced to also new ships, the E-Wings, which actually be one of the long-lasting holdovers from all of this. But unfortunately, the other Star Destroyer gets stupidly consumed. We see Leia get visions of Vader, and warning them about finding Luke. And eventually we see Han and Chewie and Leia and go on board the Falcon, and basically they go to Nar Shaddaa, the home of the Hutt, and would become actually a main part in the Jedi Knight games, actually. And basically we find out, we get a bit more about Han Solo's past. I actually like it, and then the later books would actually play off with some of this stuff. As we're introduced to some characters like Ninix and all that, and we're introduced, and basically we find it plays off with stuff how Leia had killed Jabba. Some people I think forget about. We're also introduced to Sala, who was one of Han's old girlfriends. And Sala, there was an audio production of these books, and she was voiced by Gindi Tarkis, I think is how you're saying. But I know her best as the first voice for Kerrigan from StarCraft. Yeah, she would play this and another character we would introduce. But basically, yeah, during this time on Nar Shaddaa, we're introduced to the return of Boba Fett. Another idea that was from Lucas that basically reveals, oh yeah, the Sarlacc found him somewhat indigestible. One of the other bounty hunters, Dengar, I believe his name was, had rescued him, and that's why he's there helping him. They make their run for it. They start, and well, basically they start to escape, as they're trying to escape. But then we find out one of the world devastators starts self-destructing for some reason, as it collapses. We then see that the Falcon was actually able to sneak on board Sala's ship as they make their way to Biss. And we also see that Boba Fett's new ship, Slave 2, follows through, but Fort Planet's force field goes up, demolishing it, and that's the last we see of Boba Fett throughout the rest of this story, I think. And then they are able to make it on board. Han and Leia confront Luke and the Emperor. Leia actually tries to use their lightsaber, rewind a little bit. They meet this old woman on Nar Shaddaa. Her name is Vima Deboda, and she's an ancient Jedi that ties all the way into what Veach would have to do with the Knights of the Old Republic, for she is the descendant of Naomi Sunrider, one of the earliest great powerful Jedis. One of the ones that's also beloved and people wanted to see in Knights of the Old Republic, but due to licensing issues, mostly had to be reserved to lore stuff instead. But anyway, she had given Leia her old lightsaber, but Palpatine destroys it. Wow. Basically, we see they're all abducted. And we're also introduced to the holocron. I believe was the first time this was introduced. And Palpatine shows it to Leia, reveals an ancient Jedi who recorded his thoughts, and we're also revealed during it that Leia is pregnant. Now, of course, this would make it seem like it was her first child, but in this case, it's her third child, obviously. And Palpatine plans on having himself reborn in that child. But then, we see everyone starting to make an escape. Luke's ready to go, realizing how far he had gotten, but Leia's arrival and being there helps strengthen himself in the Force. And, they seem to leave. They get on board the Falcon and get off. But then we find out that Luke had actually used a Force projection to show himself off. Wait, Luke, shouldn't that mean you'd be dead by now by overexerting yourself? Sorry, had to make another pot shot. You know what I mean by these parallels, some of the recent stuff? But it turned out it was the only way to get Leia off, of course. And we turned out Luke is there in the clone chamber as he confronts the Emperor, who dies and is about to jump into a new body as Luke starts attacking all the clones. But unfortunately, one of them had gotten out. Much younger now, as the Emperor grabs a nearby lightsaber and he has the anatomy of a Kendo. They fight, and the Emperor wins, which, given how the fight with Yoda goes, we know he's a killer at the lightsaber as well. And it turns out also that Luke had put all the information, all the data on the world devastators into R2, as they start to use it to try and turn the tide of battle. And eventually they do. Things to R2 cause them all to self-destruct and consume each other. Then, we're also introduced to probably one of my favorite new creations. The Executor class Star Destroyer. 19 kilometers long compared to the regular 7 kilometers. They ask for Leia to be brought up. They do. brother and sister duke it out a little, but and Luke's able to turn back. The Emperor fights Luke, but with Leia kind of sharing some of her the Force apparently from her and her unborn child into Luke, he's able to turn the fight, take out the Emperor's hand, ironically, and he unleashes the Force Storm like what he had done before. But then Luke realizes and points out from the Emperor's own notes, he really doesn't have as much control. Its control on this Force Storm is fragile. So using the Force, they're able to somehow cause the storm to go out of control and destroy the Executor, taking out the Emperor with them as Luke and Leia run off, get on board a shuttle and make it back. Ending, and Luke states that the Jedi will rise again. The first one, it's an interesting one. It's nice, self-contained too, really. You think Luke take care of the clones, the Emperor's gone for good, and would have been fine. Now, between this and the sequel, yes, there had to be a sequel. There was supposed to be a story called Lightsiders that would have introduced a new Jedi as well, named Cam. But it was never done. But parts of it were actually adapted into the audio that gives a fight that the two had that would have eventually led to Cam joining up with Luke and everything. And he has an interesting backstory. Father was a Jedi who kept him on the down low, taught his son before he died, etc. But this is also the point where we're introduced to Dark Jedi. As we're introduced to Executor Cedrus. And apparently he's trying to deal with this weapon maker who we start to see a battle of weaponry and tech. Kind of like that. As we're introduced to these battle mechs and some other secret weapons. Until one of these giant weird tanks are revealed to have molecular armor, shielding that absorbs, energy blast. And, well, they decide they're going to try and use them. We then see, the Empires, not the Empire, the Empire and the Rebellion are still fighting. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's the Rebel Alliance again, after the fall of the Emperor and everything. Yeah, it kind of leads into that. As, well, basically, it's decided for Leia, since she's nearing due, for her to go into hiding. But first she wants to make back to Narshada to find Bima Deboda before she passes. She has it as far as I know. We see Neeks and Shala decide to head back as well. Then we're introduced to some of these dark Force users who are utilizing, they're taking out the rest of the clones. Although there's apparently one left. It's Cedrus. He's given orders by Cedrus to go and hunt down some of the Jedi. We see Boba Fett still alive with Slave One as some of the Dark Force users try to strong-arm Boba. And I like how he says, me and Vader had an understanding. I don't go for this. As he fights his way out of there. Shenanigans happen as they find Bima Deboda. And then Chewie takes out Boba Fett's helmet, knocks him aside as they take their way out. We see one of Han's old friends, who's kind of one of the head people here of Narshada. Well, he's taken out as one of the Star Destroyer's tractor beams pull up on this giant needle spire, impales on the Star Destroyer, and it all comes crashing as a huge chunk of Narshada gets blown up. Hope Kyle Katarn's not in there. He's badass enough. He's fine. As Luke and Cam go to this island, into this planet that they had some hints of, and during their time here, they find some proto-Jedis, you could say. As during their time there as well, Cedrus and another Dark Jedi show up. They fight and they deal with a Jedi Master Banar, who's actually the same Jedi Master who put his information in the holocron. And during all this, Ood sacrifices himself to take out Cedrus. And then one of the proto-Jedis that Luke and Cam had rescued, her name is, I just forget her name, but basically, and she's not really important really, but she's a girl that ends up falling for Luke and he falls for her. And also, the Jedi, turns out the weapons guy from earlier, planning on giving those new tanks to the Rebel Alliance. But the Rebel Alliance, first they were thinking of, Luke said you should gather them up and use them. But then Lando and the others decide, no, let's sneak aboard, send it to Biss, and then just go for the main stronghold. Yeah, that doesn't go well. Also during this, we apparently find out that the Emperor can just give Dark Force energy to random people. Of course. As we're starting to, Veach is starting to expand a bit more on the Jedi lore. We see Boba Fett had chased the Millennium Falcon into this gas storm, where while they're in there, they find across this steam-powered ship. Steam in space, really? As we're introduced to another old Jedi. Hold on, his name is King Empajos of Ganath. Okay, I think he has a shorter name. We'll find out about it. But basically, yeah, he's in a droid suit. An interesting idea. I do find, again, a lot of good ideas in all this. As meanwhile on Biss, the attack happens with the mechs as they start plowing their way through, and because thanks to the molecular shields, they're doing great. Until these giant Rancor-like beasts were unleashed, and well, because they don't have any weaponry, and the shield requires requires just only works on energy blast. Yeah, the mechs are completely torn to shreds. As Shala and Ninix decide, you know what? Let's make it. We gotta take a stand, and they help out the rebellion and get them out of there. Right down to R2 stabbing one of them and causing it to fall down to a turbo cannon. As we see that during the fight with the scuffling with Boba Fett and Slave One, the Falcon's one of its missile cannons was destroyed. So oh jeez, what was his name? And what's his Emto Jayos had basically uploads a lightning gun onto it instead. And he decides to come with Han and the others to try and reform the Jedi Order. That's the whole point of all this, is to reform it. Which again, I do like that idea. Again, they just want to reform the Jedi Order, and Brand is his name. Yeah, they want to reform it. So of course, Brand and Bima decide to come with. Then you have Han shooting the lightning gun at Slave One as it tumbles into the clouds, where we'll never see again for the rest of this series. But just the fact that Han is out there, and not Han, Boba Fett's still out there, was enough for other people to use them. As we're then seeing Jem is her name, with the girl's name. Luke and Jem are getting close, really close. And Leia and Han finally make it to New Alderaan, where they meet up with Jaina and Jason. And yeah, we're finally recognized along with Winter, Leia's long friend. I like Winter a lot. And then we see Luke and Cam make their way back as all of a sudden this giant missile is coming right towards the planet of the rebellion. As it explodes, Pinnacle Moon is no more. Yep, this is the Emperor's newest secret weapon, the Galaxy Gun, which basically shoots these hyperspace missiles with incredible power shielding. They can basically one-hit KO anything. Yeah, this is one of the dumber ideas, I'm afraid. As Luke and Cam, Jem, and whatever Cam's brother's name is, show up on New Alderaan. You have Brand and showing off, saying how Master Yoda taught him a skill. Given what we find out about how Yoda taught the Padawans, I get it. And they're teaching about stuff like battle meditation, stuff like that. Until some of the Dark Jedi show up, start fighting them all. As during all this, apparently, unfortunately, Jem gets not only killed, she gets shot. Yeah. And then they basically take out the Dark Jedi, and once they're taken care of, Jem passes on. Wow, that was a short love interest for Luke, wasn't it? as more Imperials show up on New Alderaan. But then wouldn't you know it, the rest of the Resistance show up. Turns out they're fine. Leia goes into labor, and there's, the others are talking about what to do about the Jedi Order. And then Han says, "Hey, I'm a father again. It's a boy. Feast your eyes on Han Solo Jr. But feast your eyes on Han Solo Jr. Isn't he the greatest?" And then it turns out his name's Anakin Solo. What, not Ben? And, well, it ends with Luke getting a vision of the future. Now, this one, unlike the other one, which was more self-contained, this one left a lot of loose ends. And, I think a lot of people could have accepted Dark Empire 1 on its own, but this was the one that really brought in a lot of the issues. A lot of issues. It's still good and decent in my eyes, but it's opened up a lot of problems. Shoehorning Luke and a love interest when Mara Jade was around makes you wonder if Beach was doing it to spite Zahn. You had another galaxy weapon, another one. You had the Emperor, still alive again, in his last clone body at least. And at the end of this one, he's still out there, there's still the threat. And had it not been for the fact they had to reconcile with the novels that were set after this, yeah, they almost wiped out the entirety of the Rebellion command. Next issue. Now, you probably noticed about the artwork. The coloring in this one is kind of annoying, and I did not care for the coloring. But we would get a different coloring in this one, but then we would have different artwork. As well, the Emperor is trying to hunt down, hunt down the Rebellion. Keeps on sending missile after missile after all of them, taking them out. The Rebellion are on the run, and it turns out the Emperor's new and the Racing body is starting to degrade already. As he's trying to figure out what to do as he's stressing himself out trying to go after the Rebellion. In other words, he's starting to have a meltdown. We didn't have it be there was a spy among them, reveals where their base is, and then a missile is shot off as it was sent in, and apparently it was a dud. Wow, how convenient. It was a dud. But then the Emperor then sends out another one and takes them out. We then see the Emperor is still stressing out. His physician is telling him, "Sir, calm down, alright? It could accept your anger could hasten the clone's destruction." So Palpatine pauses and he gives it thought. And he decides he needs to ensure his future before he continues any further. And, they're trying to figure out what else to do. We then see they realize, and Luke and the others decide to go to Bajoon, which is a place where Vader had put his, had his own castle. They show up, start fighting, and start taking a bunch of the Dark Jedi, knocking over Vader's statue he had there. As we then see Palpatine has already become his old withered self, as he goes to Korriban, where he starts talking to some of the other Sith Lords of the past, demanding more power, and basically they refuse to give him a new body. But instead, they decide to show him where Leia's newest born is, and that he would use it to, like he originally planned, to hop into. We then see, more fighting. The Falcon is restored to his normal appearance. Just as they're just traveling along, trying to deal with the Empire still, until eventually, using obviously the Force manipulation, the Emperor makes his way down, makes his way to where Leia is with the kids. And, this is where the big finale starts to happen. As everyone else is fighting, some of the ships from the last series is being used. You're having the Emperor just knock Leia aside, is killing himself more, as he tries to make a go for Anakin, but snatches him from the Emperor, showing how weak he is. You then see the Emperor zaps Bran, and then he zaps the other kid, Rem, I guess what his name is, Jem's brother, killing him. Wow, they're just wiping everything out, aren't they? And then the Emperor decides, rather than surrendering, he tries to go for an attack, and Han, he shoots him with a blaster. Yeah, as Palpatine's body dies. But before it could jump into Anakin, Bran, still alive, jumps in and takes the Emperor's consciousness into him, passing the child over to Leia as he's continuing keeping the Emperor in him. As he mentions how the Emperor, he's afraid. but he will make sure that all the Jedi of the past, when he passes on, they will hold on to the Palpatine, making sure he never resurrects himself again, as both Rand and the Emperor pass on. As well, then they decide to get on board the Executor 2, and well, send it on a crash course into the Galaxy Gun, which causes them to shoot it off prematurely, and then it hits the planet Biz, which was again the Emperor's homeworld, and causes that to blow up. And then Chewie goes, which translates to "Long live the rebellion." Okay, there's so many issues with this. Again, like I said, the first part would have been so fine on its own. It's the second and third part that make it completely pointless. Especially the Emperor's end, how almost everything that Beach set up is just wiped aside. Brand, at least he gets a rogue death, but Rev gets killed just haphazardly, and no one seems to question it. You have another galaxy weapon, like I said, which was stupid. The Emperor is just hastily his disintegration, trying to go back to his plan from the first book. And eventually the Emperor is gone for good with the sacrifice of Bran. And if the rumors, spoilers for episode 9 seem to be concerned, they're ripping this off. They're completely ripping this off. So, that was the Dark Empire, and is it the greatest? No. But, again, stuff was set up. I mean, Anakin Solo, for one. You would have the Holocron, Cam would still stick around. Luke trying to rebuild the Jedi Order kind of started here more so. Veach was going to do Knights of the Old Republic and everything. It's pretty interesting, I will give it that, but it's a mixed bag. It's not the greatest. In fact, some of the other stuff we'll be talking about is a lot better. I will give it that. But this, it's alright. I still would prefer it over Last Jedi, that's for sure. So, yeah. I'm hoping I can get the other episodes out. If I don't, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and not much else to say except see ya, and may the Force be with you. Hey guys, just want to interject one little bit I forgot to add, is that one of these things in the fallout of this series, like I said before, is that a lot of creators didn't really follow through with a lot of this stuff, especially Timothy Zahn. He did not like any of the follow-up stuff. I mean, not the follow-up stuff, what was done here. To the point where, during his Hand of Thrawn duology, even had Margaret openly state, yeah, I could sense the Emperor wherever there he was, and I don't think that was him. Now, she didn't about to say it wasn't him. She just simply said, I highly doubt it. Now, of course, one could say maybe the Emperor realized her treachery and kept her cut off since he was paying attention during the Thrawn stuff. Who knows? But then you also have then other creators all were trying to do everything they can to just ignore or just disregard what was done during all this. So a lot of people, there were more Zahn supporters than there were Beach supporters, unfortunately, in many regards. Because again, there's some interesting ideas, but you also understand why people were not fond of, oh, the Emperor was back and all that stuff. So they quickly brushed it under the rug and everything. And I want to explain why it seemed so much at the end feel like it was trying to just close up a lot of stuff that Beach had introduced, but I would just say that this isn't the most egregious thing that was still bound to the expanded universe at that time. There's some others that would need even more drastic retconning to make more sense and make it more applicable. Such as the Jedi Academy Trilogy. Yeah, you would end up needing an additional book for that by a different writer who actually trying to explain away a lot of issues people had with that. So this is nowhere near that bad.